Can you get a mortgage in the US as a non-resident foreigner, even if you don't live in the country? My name's David Garner. I've bought over 100 rental properties in the US as a non-resident foreigner living overseas. And now me and my team help other non-resident foreigners do the same. So the answer is yes, you can get mortgages in the US. There are a few extra hoops to jump through, but there's a few different types of mortgages you can get as a non-resident foreigner. The first of those is a foreign national loan, and that's a documented loan. And that means that the mortgage broker or the lender, if you're dealing with a direct lender, it won't be a bank, it'll be a non-bank lender, but they will check your credit score in the US if you have one. If not, in your country of residence, they'll look for proof of income, proof of your residence, potentially proof of your assets, much in the same way as if you were applying for a mortgage in your own country. So that's option number one. Option number two is a DSCR loan, which is called a debt service coverage ratio loan. That's what I've used to purchase all of my properties in the US. And that is where the lender will use the income from the property as a measure of whether you can afford to repay the mortgage. And they'll typically look for a debt service coverage ratio of 1.25, which means that the net operating income, so the gross income less the costs for the property, has to be at least 125% of the mortgage payment, the total mortgage payment. So if your mortgage payment is $1,000, the mortgage lender is going to look for a net operating income from that property of at least $1,125 as a rough guide. So non-resident foreigners will typically pay a slightly higher interest rate than US citizens, simply because lenders see those loans as slightly more risky. And you'll also find for non-US residents, you'll have to put a bigger deposit down. So US citizens can get an FHA loan. That's a loan underwritten by the Federal Housing Authority with as little as 3.5% deposit. Now, that's almost no money down and getting a mortgage to fund the entire purchase. And that's great if you're buying your own home. But if you're leveraging an investment property, you're buying a rental property, and you're a non-resident foreigner, you're going to have to put down typically at least 30%. And that's our recommendation. If you're going to leverage, which is a great thing to do if you're buying real estate, in my experience, then you want to make sure that you put as much deposit down as you possibly can, reduce the debt load, make sure the property cash flows properly, reduce your risk. So down probably 30%, and you'll pay a slightly higher rate. But typically the answer to the question is yes. As a non-resident foreigner, as long as you've got a 30% deposit, you get a mortgage to buy a rental property in the US. If you found this video useful, you can follow me for more information on buying real estate in the US as a non-resident foreigner.